I will say that America and our government is obviously serious about providing quality health care to as many Americans as possible. I think we spend somewhere near $400 billion for VA. We spend over $520 billion on Medicare. We spend probably $350 to $400 billion on Medicaid. We spend $200 or $300 billion on Obamacare. We have provided somewhere near $1.7 trillion for health care. We spend about $800 billion as a nation on public education, K through 12. But unfortunately, in the poorest zip codes of this nation, the system fails those kids, so that the quality of your education determines the quality of your life so often, and yet the poorest kids have too few options for quality education, and we fuse together the quality of your education with the quality of your future. I didn't come here to argue about the issues. I came here to make a difference about these issues, and frankly, I don't think we have done a good job making a difference for the average person in this country who watches the processes and the performances here in Washington, and they are sick to their stomach. And so when we hear that what we need is more money, and we have actually no conversation, no debate over what we're going to do with the money, of course it's frustrating. I hear my friends on the other side, and I watched in 2017 as we passed tax reform through reconciliation. As you said, Bob, without any question, we did it. And what was the result of that reconciliation package? Well, it was in 2018, it was a 3% increase in revenue to the Treasury. In 2019, it was a 3% increase in the Treasury as well. And over those 3.5 years, we saw $4,400 come back to the average American family. We saw taxes for a single mother like the one that raised me go down by about 70%, her tax burden to the federal government. We saw about a 60% reduction in taxes, federal taxes, for working class Americans. If you're looking for a way to attack the rich, we actually created a system of taxation that is still progressive. But what we said was a little different. We said that actually creating incentives like the opportunity zone so that those who have will reinvest in places that don't, bringing about $75 billion back to the poorest Americans who happen to be consistently, disproportionately people of color. What we're concerned about in this process of reconciliation is not simply the process that we reach the end goal of getting it passed, though I am going to yell and scream about that too. It's what we're doing to the American people and not for the American people through this process with a equally divided 50-50 Senate with a 3-seat majority in the House and with a White House that's controlled by the party. If I were in charge, and I'm not, obviously, I would be thoughtful about deliberating, discussing, debating, disagreeing on those tenets or principles that we think move America in the right direction. This process has been missing. We're talking about spending more money this fiscal year than any country on earth has ever spent. And we're going to do that in the most partisan way. And I know the voters are watching. And I hope that the response and reaction that they have is an allergic reaction to this process and to the spending, because ultimately, and I predict this, in 3 to 5 years when we measure poverty in this country, it'll be worse than it is today. What we saw after the 2017 tax reform, we saw poverty hit the lowest level ever recorded. We saw the unemployment numbers hit the lowest numbers ever recorded. We saw labor force participation rates in the poorest communities go up. We saw the long-term unemployed come back to work. What are we seeing today? The exact opposite. So yes, we are frustrated by the lack of transparency that this nation has on the largest spending packages in the history of the country. And we're frustrated by the fact that when you call a COVID relief package a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, COVID relief, but less than about 1% goes to vaccines and 9% goes to COVID-related health. Yes, we're concerned about the definitions of the words we're using when we have an infrastructure package that has about 10% in the next 5 years for roads and bridges. It's frustrating. because the American people believe the words we use because the words we use are containers of power. And yet we deceive the American people in our packages by naming them something that sounds good, but the details are so murky you can't figure out what it is, and we're doing it again. At least when we talked about our reconciliation package, we said we are going to cut your taxes, we're going to return $4,000 to your household, we're going to make it easier for you to make decisions because we believe expecting 535 people in Washington to know what 330 million people should do with their money is ridiculous, so we'll give it back to you, you make your decisions. It actually works.